County School Board, April 9th.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Mr. Bryant.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Mr. Foster.
Yes. We have a moment of silence. We have a pledge, someone doing the pledge for us? Nobody's doing that? We're just singing and we'll do our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, do we have any changes to the agenda? No changes? Okay. I'd like to get a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion that we approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Okay. Got a motion by Ms. Bryan and a second by Mr. Thomas.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Ms. Bryant.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes. So we need matters discussed in closed session. Need an action on that?
Yes, I make a motion to certify the matters discussed in closed session. As per section 2.2.377A1 pertaining to discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for school board employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salary, discipline, or resignation of public officers, appointees, or employees of the school.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion by Mr. Thomas, a second by Mr. Breeden.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Ms. Bryant.
Yes.
Yes. Do you have any citizen comments?
We do. We have one written and two general.
Okay.
Mr. Smith.
Okay. Mr. Smith? Yes, I do. Yes.
Thank you all for hearing me out this evening.
Just a reminder, it's 3 minutes.
No way. Well, some of you may not know, I took one for the team and went back when we couldn't find an ag teacher at Page County High School. I taught English for 37 years and I'm a hay farmer, so I taught animal systems. I said, that's not very logical. They said, you can do it. I looked at the curriculum. You always have things that you need to do, things that you hope you can do, and things you know there's no. I looked at the first part of it. I was like, there's no way I'm going to even get through half of the stuff I need to do. Ag has changed a lot. When I was in school and took ag, you had ag 1, ag 2, ag 3. And if you were really a farm boy and wanted to hang around, you could take ag 4. If you did that, you became a de facto instructor. You were teaching little kids how to weld and do things like that. I didn't learn a whole lot in ag when I was in school because I already knew how to do all that stuff. What I did learn was in FFA. I learned public speaking. I wouldn't be able to do this right now. I wouldn't have been an educator. I learned Robert's Rules of Order. So how to deal with people, how to go to competitions, things like that. We have, I think it's a crisis up at Page County High School right now. And that might be overdone a little bit. But we really, really need to look. It's a two-man job up there. It's a two-man job. I do have something I would like for you all to look at your leisure. This is a whole breakdown of the things that fall under the auspices of the Dr. Johnson. I'm going to take one, pass them around. Got one for everybody. It falls under the, on page 40, I can't see without my glasses, agricultural education and all the different things. One leads into another. You think technology's changing. Well, agriculture is changing just as quickly. And listen, and I'm here on behalf of the Page County Farmers Association. We put a lot of time, effort, money, volunteer hours, things like that into the ag program up there. And when we lost our two good guys, and no knock on Mark Bosman at all, I see in person what he's doing. He's running from the middle school up to the high school, trying to keep FFA going. The FFA it would take a full-time person just to do FFA the way it should be done. You know, huge schools have full-time FFA advisors, not just ag teachers / FFA advisors. This is something that we really need to invest in.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that, Mr.
Can
Smith.
I make a comment on that? So even with at our school, we have 2 FFA teachers and they both do ag. Even they're busting their butts doing what they're doing. So one person going back and forth is going to be very hard regardless.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions so I can talk longer? That make it legal?
We don't usually ask questions. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Worth a try.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Is Mr. Flynn, is he?
I didn't sign up.
You
You
didn't?
don't have to, you just.
Okay.
Sign.
Yep, yep.
Thank you. 3 minutes?
3 minutes, yes, sir.
Thank you. Chairman, good evening, members of the board. I'm Leslie Clem. I hail from District 4. And I also am a member of the Page County Farmers Association, been a president, a member of that since 1998 when we began. I wear 3 hats. I have a poultry farm. I work for a man 9 hours a day. And I come home and my wife and I, we have a cleaning business, a repair business, and we are licensed here in Page County. Thank you very much. So my heart is with Tech Ed, big time. I served on the Tech Ed department, the directors with Miss Pettit for a couple of years. I just feel my heart is there. And welding, my son went to the welding program, auto technology. When I heard the 2 men were leaving at our ag departments, my heart was broken. And, so I began to lay awake at night thinking, who do I know? The same as Mr. Eric Smith's position, and thank you, Mr. Smith, for what you do, that maybe works a little bit and could teach kids. It was thrown at my face that I could do it. Would you do it? And I said, no, I can't handle the rebellion of the kids. I can't handle it. I ain't doing that. I just don't. But I love them enough to kind of maybe do some things outside the circle as far as the Page County Farmers Association, and implore you all tonight, if you have your hands full, this is a necessity, a real need. It really is, ladies and gentlemen, and so I hope you can open up your eyes and ears and heart to what we're saying tonight. I'll leave you with this. I want to take you back to 1998 when at Page County Middle School, which is now the Page County, it's a middle school now, but then it was the high school. And when 200 farmers came together one night there, I was one of them that night. I don't think Mr. Smith was. And we began the Page County Farmers Association, and our slogan was to promote, protect, and preserve agriculture in Page County. And the question was asked that night by our leader, Mr. Jerry Turner, my cousin, who started it, pretty much started it all. And he asked this question, how important is agriculture to you? It's a very simple question. It really is. Is it only important when you go through the door of a Walmart or a Food Line? Or is it important any other time? I believe it's important here in our schools to get our kids agriculture. And I want to implore you as well that a lot of times when I was talking to Mr. Reisinger back in the day, that there was a few students who were coming into his class who were what I call skaters. The teachers didn't know what to do with them. They would come in, lay their head down, and I really like to try to get a handle on that if that's still happening. Only this man right here would probably know. Maybe I don't know. That was happening then. So I encourage you, implore you tonight, please look into this with a heart. See if we can't accomplish our mission. I know it's just something that really bothers me. Anything I can do You have my contact info, please.
Yes, sir.
Again, I've laid awake at night thinking, who can I call that might be interested in this position?
Yeah.
I don't know. So, but anyway, tonight, thank you for your time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Members of the board, thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, they're telling me that we can give you 3 more minutes.
Amen. Thank you.
So what we're looking at, when you've got that huge breakdown, what they did was bring in a lady who is a math teacher. Mr. Kale gave her she started a gardening club. Crazy. And I don't, it's the stereotypes that we all, teachers all use, but it was a very eclectic group that came together. Never seen anything like it. You had the cheerleaders, you had the football players, you had the skater guys. They were all working together in this gardening club because they liked watching things grow. And I helped her out with it a little bit. Very successful. Got a beautiful greenhouse up there. And Mr. Kale said, do a horticulture class. And she jumped on it. I think she's going to retire this year. So that was a kind of a 1 semester kind of deal. And I haven't been in contact with her. I left some stuff for her in the greenhouse just now. Now's the time to start looking for people. You've got people here at the end of school that may be looking for not necessarily greener pastures, but different pastures. You've got kids coming out of school. I know we tried that last year. We beat the bushes looking for people. I'm aware of that. But this is another year we start trying. I understand. I thought we had somebody in position up there, one individual doing that. Make sure there is a difference in the tech ed program and the agricultural program. The two are not connected. They're really not. One is computer stuff and woodworking, and the other is agriculture. So if you've got a tech ed guy up there and he's showing them how to do, animated computer stuff and showing them how to do, turn out bowls on lathes and things like that, that is not teaching kids how to push bearings out on spindles and showing them how to do some basic electrical wiring and showing them fertilizer and things like that. Look, I went with what I knew. I was like, look, nobody can afford steaks now. I'm going to teach you, if you want to raise a couple steers in your backyard, here's how you do it. And I think within that, I was able to pretty much stick with the curriculum that I was given. Did I cover it all? Not even a 15th of it, probably. But I did what I could, and I think they learned a little something along the way, and they enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it. But I'm not going back up there. No. So now's the time to start looking, people. We need this is a 2-person job.
Yep.
And I understand that the one young lady who was interested kind of backed out because Chris and Ken left at the same time. Now she got cold feet. It's understandable. I cannot imagine. I was a 37-year veteran, and I went in and looked at that, and I was like, what in the world do I do now?
Your 3 minutes is up. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so our consent agenda, need approval for that. And the minutes. You want to move that? Let's just do that. So we've got a personnel packet of A, B, and C, and we're going to vote on them one at a time. So that what was presented in closed session, I need a motion to approve the personnel agenda for agenda A.
I make a motion that we approve the personal agenda A.
Second.
All right, got a motion by Mr. Thomas, second by Ms. Bryant.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Ms. Bryant.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes. Then I need one motion for personnel packet B.
Make a motion to approve personnel package B.
I'll second.
Okay, so we got a motion by Ms. Bryant, and a second by Mr. Thomas for personnel action B.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Ms. Bryant.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes. Now I have one for C, final one. So I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve personnel packets.
Okay, we got a motion by Mr. Thomas, and you got a second? I need a second.
Second.
Got a second by Ms. Bryant?
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So now we need to do the consent agenda, which is we need the minutes approved by February 2026.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes from February 2026.
Second.
Okay, got a motion by Ms. Bryan and a second by Ms. Breeden.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Ms. Bryant.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes. All right, let's get to some fun stuff, some recognitions.
Ready? All right. Good evening, everyone, members of the board, members of the audience. We want to start off our recognitions this evening of our model students. Our first student is from Stanley Elementary, Carson Price. Carson was not able to attend this evening. However, I would like to read what has been written regarding Carson. Carson is unbelievably kind in numerous ways. He will offer up his turn with something to someone else. He constantly asks his peers and adults alike if they need help, if it appears they are struggling with something, academically speaking, or even if something someone is carrying is heavy or cumbersome looking. He is unbelievably resilient and always sees the glass as half full, and he always sees the good in everyone and includes everyone. Finally, Carson never gives up and is always encouraging. Congratulations to Carson. All right, there we go. Next up is Kyler Bostic from Luray Elementary School. Welcome, Kyler. Kyler has a wonderful sense of humor. He knows just how to make us smile and laugh. His lighthearted spirit helps to brighten everyone's day. Thank you, Kyler, for making our classroom a happier place. Congratulations. Next up, from Springfield Elementary School, we have Adeline Sowers. Hi, Adeline. We're glad that you're here. Got to get your picture taken. All right, Adeline, can I read a little bit about you? Okay, very good. Adeline is a wonderful student and a team player. She works well with her peers. There is definitely a sense of unity within any group that she is a part of. Her positive energy and mindset ensure no one feels left out. We are super proud of you, Adeline. Good job. Next up, we have Lincoln Shiflett from Shenandoah Elementary School. Get your picture first. All right, you ready for your speech? I'm just kidding. I'll do that for you. Okay? All right, Lincoln. Lincoln is one of those students who quietly makes a big difference. You can count on him every single day to do the right thing, treat others with respect, and give his best effort. He carries himself in a way that shows kindness and maturity beyond his years. This year, Lincoln has really grown into himself as a learner. He knows that some things may take extra effort, but he embraces the challenge instead of shying away from it. He stays focused, he keeps trying, and he never lets anything get in the way of his learning or the learning of those around him. There is a quiet strength in the way he approaches each day that truly stands out. As a member of our student leadership team, Lincoln leads without needing attention or recognition. He simply shows others what it looks like to be responsible, dependable, and kind. We are so proud of the young leader he is becoming. Lincoln, thank you for the positive impact you make at Shenandoah Elementary. You truly set an example for others. Congratulations. Yep.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
That's,
Yep.
all right, we'll do our informational with the LHS student representative presentation.
So for those of you who don't know me, or again, don't remember me, I'm Andrea Bellows. I am the junior rep for the school board, and I am from LHS. And tonight we'll be covering sports and the pre-spring break activities and clubs with extracurriculars and again, a questionnaire. And this is just to provide an understanding of our student body. Okay, so spring sports have sprung into action with both wins and losses from all teams all over. Games tonight, they play Clark. They have a lot to live up to after the state run from both basketball teams. And so prior to spring break, we did a spirit week. We did a lot of themes we've never done before. And we did a thing called Matcha Monday. I don't even know what it is. I'm gonna be completely honest. Friday, we did a rock, paper, scissors challenge. So everyone had beads, and they played rock, paper, scissors, and you had to have 5 to do a teacher, and you had to have 8 to compete in the finale. And whoever beat one in the finale got a gift card. And Miss Meadows and Mr. Tickerhoof also participated, so that was really fun. There's our Matcha Monday poster. That's matcha. It tastes like grass.
Oh,
All clubs are at their own standings at this point in the year. Some are wrapping things up, and others are planning big things. SCA wrapped up their Sadie Hawkins dance, where the girls asked the guys, as well as the Spring Break Spirit Week, and they toured around the 8th graders and asked questions. I think their next event is they're doing a pancake breakfast for the school on Monday. NHS also just participated in the American Red Cross blood drive, and Multicultural Club with Miss Burley has brought in guest speakers from around the county to speak to everyone around the county, or everyone in the school. And also speaking about the rock, paper, scissors, Eviana McCormick won. She got a $15 gift card to Taco Bell, I believe. And Senora Burley is planning another flamenco dance field trip. She has one in the fall and one in the spring. And I believe there's another field trip to the Shakespeare Center. And also our forensics and debate teams also went to states as well. I think Katie Scott won, got first place. And for my student questionnaire, I asked what they were doing over break. Christian just said work. And Morgan Good said she was spending time with family. And Joey was going on vacation to Smith Mountain Lake. And Selena also said she was going with family and working as well. And Michaela Mason, I asked her at a sleepover, so of course she was hanging out with me. And that's all.
All right, thank you. All right, informational items, the review of the minutes of March 2026. Take a review of that. I don't think there's anything to present, but we'll be voting on that to approve those next time. Monthly financial, yes.
I had one comment
Yes.
on the minutes there. If you, I think it's worth noting on the minutes for 3/26/2026 under section 8.01 that I was a no vote.
Can you repeat that again, please?
On section 8.01.
Okay. No. Okay, all right. Thank you.
Also, it's the same issue from the time before.
The member present? Okay. Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? All right. Monthly financials, Ms. Miller.
Yes, good evening, school board members. You have been provided with the monthly financial report for the month ended March 31st, 2026. For March, Fund 1 expenditures totaled $3,853,228.07. You have also been provided with the local match that we did balance with the treasurer's office. I'd like to point that out to you there at the bottom of the revenue. Our local match for the month of March was $737,054.42. And this is the lowest it's been. I was pleased in February, but this is even better. As you recall, as we started out this fiscal year, we were burning through our local match pretty quickly because we were being funded so low at the beginning from the state. So we have actually stretched what I thought was going to be 1 month of local match into 2 and then again. But you can also see the local match balance is $1,377,922. We will make it through April, likely not all the way through May unless we do begin to receive more funding. I will provide for you here in a few minutes an update on the current budget that shows the approximate or an estimate of the revenue. So I'm crossing my fingers that we will make it through May as well. Put up the financial report. All right. So every month I have been verbally providing you projections. This time I took a little bit more time because we are so close to the end of the year, and I thought that I could better project a little bit more what our revenue and expenditures were looking like. I'm pleased with the revenue. If you look at the first column there, it shows our budgeted numbers, 46.6. I'm estimating all the way over to the right, 46,121, really close. I have been a little conservative with this, so I'm very hopeful that we will get to the budgeted amount, which is impressive considering that that budgeted amount is on an ADM that is higher than what we actually are showing. For the state portion of that revenue, basically what I've done is since December when the state increased our funding, it's been consistent. So I projected that out based on what we've been receiving twice a month. Just for the next 3 months, it didn't add too much extra to that because, again, I'm being conservative. But we do know that there's a little bit more going into that. There's additional funds that are going to hit at the end of the fiscal year, likely around June 1st, for regional programs, and Dr. Huber is going to be speaking about that in his superintendent presentation about that regional program and why that funding comes about. So we're looking for a good bit of that. And then a security grant reimbursement is just one thing that's hanging out there that we haven't received yet that I know we're going to. So that puts us at 30 million for state, according to my estimate. Federal, being a bit conservative here too, it's difficult to predict a federal, at least for me right now, until I figure out the titles and the timing and so forth. But based on my best estimate, we're looking at 2.3 million there, which is a bit more than what we actually had budgeted. Our local match is what that is. It's 12.8 from the locality. And then our other, we budgeted that at 615,000, and I'm estimating based on a large Medicaid payment that we're likely going to receive. Now, last year that came in July, but it was booked back. And so we're expecting that to hit in June. But again, if it hits in July or August, we're still going to book that back. But that's going to push us over in that other. On the expenditures, what I had been doing is taking actual for salaries and benefits all along, because salaries and benefits are actual, they are what they are, and I've been projecting that out. But this time, I think I've even got a closer number because I'm taking March actual. I'm including an extra coach's pay that's coming up. And then I've added a cushion in there for payouts. Now, that's a very difficult one to project. I've added some in there for it. Don't know if I'm close. I've got a couple $100,000 in there for payouts. It could be more. Benefits are what they are. But I projected that out with the March actual. Purchase services, internal services, and other charges. I went ahead and continued to average that year to date, just projecting it out to the end of the year. Materials and supplies, we should be lighter on that. I projected that out based on just 100,000 for each month coming up. Really, we cut materials and supplies spending off a long time ago, and basically what's going to be included in there is the remainder of our community school funds, and then technology, the technology grant. Those are the big things that are still remaining. So I'm hopeful that that'll hit that target. Reduce the payments to joint operations. We're not having to pay as much as we thought for that. And I've just kept capital outlay the same. So unfortunately, you've been seeing a couple $100,000 decrease, and it didn't happen this time. We're still at 664, but again, I'm trying to think out a little bit more rather than just averaging. That's my best guess. I look for April to be similar to March. I do expect the expenditures to increase at the end of the year as we begin to wrap up some things. There's the end of year things that we just have to do. Expenditures come along with that, and then obviously our payout. These numbers, please keep in mind, they do not take into account the end of year accruals. I did reach out to the accounting firm who does our year-end work and to ask for their working papers. I do have the accruals. I know what journal entries they made. I'd like to see how they got there, that I can closer duplicate that. I also have FY24, so I can compare what 24 and 25 look like. Any questions?
Yes, there's a couple questions.
Okay.
So the 664,565, that was 1.9 sometime back in October, right?
October, yes.
So we've moved that down 1.3 or so million.
We have.
Where we were over budget. This expenditures, the way you put it, is that something that the way you detailed it this time is different than what we've seen in the past? So, and what I'm saying by that is that the numbers that you're trying to get to, and I'm some way next year, this is a good look, but I think maybe there's something else that we can enhance it somehow as we track throughout the year. I know we had a budget, the production of last year's budget was flawed, very much. And we're paying the price for that. But at the same time, there's 300 and some thousand of CIP money that we've talked to the Board of Supervisors, but we've never formally went to them and asked for it.
Right.
So I think our board needs to consider doing that. Or we just keep that as part of the narrative, and at the end of the year say, okay, we're over 400,000 or whatever, but we've spent 360 on CIP that we didn't budget. There's no way to budget for it. So
That's right. And next year, my plan is, I know what is in our budget. It's not approved yet, but I know what's in our draft, our proposed budget.
Yeah.
I also know that there's huge O&M expenditures that really should be budgeted for, but we didn't get the funding for that.
Right.
So my thought is, next year, I know what's in this budget. If we have large expenditures that really just need like the 300,000, we ask because it wasn't funded.
right. I agree.
That's what I think we have to do. We can't continue to absorb that and expect to stay on track. Correct.
Yeah. So we had a conversation with the administration of the county about how we're going to present this, or I know we've talked about it, and I brought it up in meetings, but
This
Actually-
overage?
yeah, this overage and the CIP that we've spent. So,
Yes, and so in April, the next Board of Supervisor meeting, the 20th,
okay,
we are going to present
Okay.
where we are, likely something like this.
okay,
We are supposed to be going back in June. And that's when we will basically present this is where we are
okay,
and see what they want to do about that.
right.
It concerns me a little bit with this local match. I was told by the county, well, you can go into the negative. That doesn't feel good to
No,
me.
no,
But I'm just hopeful that we could have a little bit more funding coming in May, then we could squeak by, get through May, and not be in the negative. If we are in the negative, I don't think it's going to be by much, but still, it doesn't feel good. But they're very well aware of where we're at.
Yeah, good.
Keeping them in the loop. I send them the financial, the monthly financial report that I present to you every month. So they're well aware of where we are.
Okay. And then the one thing that was kind of a wild card was POs that we let and the work's done and they don't always invoice us in a timely manner, and it sometimes bleeds over into the next budget year. How are we managing that from an operations side? I mean, are we following up once services are rendered and we know we're going to get an invoice in 30 days or whatever that is, and we're following up with the companies to make sure it doesn't.
I think we're very much on top of that.
Okay.
Both the regular billing and then the things come out. But we still have POs that are going out from unexpected expenses. For example, we had one that hit the desk today or yesterday, a van that was going to be several $1,000s that we can't use.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's been very closely covered. Family, daily. It's coming out of operations, that's hitting her desk.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
And I would concur with that. Just that, overall, Mrs. Miller and myself speak daily regarding this very topic. We've had very open, clear, transparent conversations with the county, with Ms. Muller and her team as well. And I think there's a good working relationship there. Unfortunately, that's not the number we want to present, but that is the number. And we're working very hard to pull back, to put those constraints in place. And I would say that I am confident that the control measures in place to prevent some of those things are pretty strong.
Okay, good. So good. Yep.
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm trying to think of how I word this. From what we know has happened, or what we believe has happened with the overage of the budget, are there things that's now being put in place to make sure that doesn't happen again?
Budgeting correctly is what we're putting into place.
Well,
because I know
Formally, I think they could say that too, but
I went line by line of what our salaries are and made sure that in each function we have corrected those salaries. And then I went line by line and calculated every every benefit and budgeted those benefits for what they need to be. And then the next step when I was creating this budget is I looked at those O&M expenses that are the recurring, but we had been under budgeting, and I corrected those the best that I can. Wasn't expecting the fuel jump, but you know.
Help to explain, there was something employee group matrix that were not fully populated.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes.
Part of.
That's a good point. I will tell you, I 100% understand how the salaries and benefits could easily have not been budgeted correctly last year. RDA is extremely difficult. I was on the phone with someone who actually still did not get me to where I needed to be to roll those in. And I just said, forget it. I'm going line by line and plugging them in myself. And that's exactly what I did.
Ms. Miller was able to identify literally a whole employee.
Huge group. They don't, right.
The last year's
And benefits. And benefits
So
didn't.
there are
pull out.
numbers missing that didn't pull out of the program that we paid for to pull.
Yeah.
The finance software.
Well, here's another question. Then should we as a school system be looking at another software program that could do it more efficiently for us?
Perhaps. I'd like to understand it a little bit better before I'd ever think about that. There is another finance director that I speak to quite regularly, and she admits too that RDA is not great, but
But
that's
it's better
what
than-
they're using. And yeah, she's used other things, like when she was in Henrico. But I need to get a better handle on it before we would make that kind of decision. I asked her how she goes about the budgeting those benefits and salaries, and she's like, not by rolling it into the system because there's errors in there. I said, well, I learned that. So just, going line by line is how we're going to do it. And I feel better about that. And there's always adjustments that you need to make anyway. So you can roll it in, but there's always adjustments to, you've got somebody moving a different department or somebody going and coming, it's always going to be changes to make. I would rather do it by hand myself, but perhaps, but I'm too new to be thinking about a new system right now, and
It's just
looking at
concerning that the software that we pay for and work with is not doing the job that it should be doing. And in essence, it's leading down false pathways for whoever may be in that seat.
if you don't understand it, it can.
Yeah.
But I believe I've got a handle on.
Okay, good.
And I think too, one of the things we're being very careful about is strategic and how many variables we change at once
Mm-hmm.
to identify the problem, right? So,
Yeah, you don't want to toss the bathwater and the
and
baby.
do two at once, and which one was the reason why?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So, trying to make sure, I think, in this approach,
Being
let's-
very methodical about
yes, yes.
Now, I guess one question to piggyback kind of on what Ms. Breeden was asking is, what are we doing to develop the rest of our finance staff? Ms. Miller goes and hits the lottery tonight. She says, "All right, guys, so I'm out."
Yes.
We got a contract.
NIL.
What guides do we have in place to make it successful moving forward? I guess.
That's right, exactly.
Have to play to win.
From our fine.
Well, that is a very,
It-
the process and procedures,
Yes.
that's what she's learning, I think. And then that's the processes and procedures that you put in.
Because I think the division has had that in the past. Someone that was not in that position was able to step into that position because they were fully aware and
Right.
and did a quite good job, from my understanding. I wasn't around for that tenure, but
Well, to be honest with you, we, in our way back early budget projections, had considered putting someone in the finance house that could learn partly my job and payroll, and payables and benefits were in that boat with all of us right now. But given our situation, we chose not to put that in there this year.
If I may give you just Breeden's right, going back at least 10 years. There was a time when we had a position in the budget that was reserved for key leadership positions such as this, when Mrs. Bean retired. We
Yeah.
bought her replacement
I wasn't mentioning names.
6 months in advance. We
Yeah.
had it in the budget, and we actually asked to keep it in the budget because it made sense. That you've always got that in your hip pocket in case, I mean, you don't always know that someone's going to give you that kind of notice. But if they do, to have that in your budget to be able to then go through the hiring process and onboard in a timely manner for training. During that time as well, there was one more finance specialist in her department. Today, she has somebody who does all of the payroll, somebody who does all of the accounts payable. But there isn't, the people are very extremely busy. There isn't anybody really that can sit and observe and learn and pick up.
Or step in any of those
payroll
roles.
persons out, but that, we've had those in the past.
It is-
Budgeting over the years, we've lost certain positions.
I mean, God forbid if something happened to one of them in that department, how does that play out?
We're aware.
On-
It is,
We've lived it in the last couple of years. And it's,
Yeah.
it
it's just
is.
impossible.
So that may be something that we may need to also look at.
Sure.
Any other questions for Ms. Miller?
No, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you for all your work you've been doing. Yeah. Instructional update, Ms. Hammer?
Good evening, board. For tonight's instructional update, I'm excited to talk about some summer planning that our division instructional team has been engaged in and what that's going to look like. So as we look to adult learning over the summer and how we can best prepare for the next school year, we always want to reflect back to what are our instructional priorities as a division. And these are all continuations from the path we've taken this year. The first is to fully apply the multi-tiered system of support model to our instructional framework. And what that system is it divides students essentially into tier 1, which is everybody, it's what everybody gets is tier 1. And then there's tier 2, which is usually between 5 to 15% of your students who need a little bit more support. That's in class, small group sort of reteaching, remediation, and intervention. And then there's tier 3, which is the smallest percentage of students, and that's where we're pulling out for interventionists, specialists, your special educators, your reading specialist, EL, things like that. So really educating our school division on the multi-tiered system of support and overlaying it over instruction. It's people here, I think, are pretty well versed in it when it comes to social emotional learning and even some mental health, but really solidifying understanding as it applies to instruction. So that's a big goal for us. And then because tier 1 is what everyone gets, focusing on ensuring high quality tier 1 instruction is happening across classrooms in the division. You'll hear people in education say you cannot tier 2 or tier 3 your way out of substandard tier 1 instruction, right? If you're not hitting the mark for all, the intervention is not going to save you there, right? So really elevating our teaching and learning for all as much as we can. Promoting professional collaboration and joint ownership over all students, just making sure that part of the culture of our classrooms and our division is that if you have a student who requires additional services on tier 3, whether it's a student with a disability or a student who is an English language learner or something to that effect, that doesn't mean that you're not equally responsible as the classroom teacher. I think some things that happened in the high stakes environment 10 years ago continue to bleed a little bit, where there was a little bit of a division, and Mrs. Hilliard's team and our instructional team are really focused on making sure everyone knows that, again, that student's going to spend more time with you than they are in intervention, so you have to accept responsibility and be working. We know that the students with disabilities subgroup is a focus for us when it comes to school improvement. So really making sure that teachers are collaborating and accepting ownership over students. And then continuing to emphasize and grow our skill set in leveraging data and metrics to drive instructional decision making, right? So if you have that group who needs tier 2 intervention, instead of just guessing what they need, how are we assessing where they are and going after it explicitly and systematically, because that's how you make gains for children. And teachers, by and large, are familiar with the concept of data-driven instruction, but it's intimidating for some, and we're really trying to bridge that. Understanding what are the best practice measures, and then what do you do when you look at your whole class data and you see that 6 out of 22 children missed this specific skill. Okay, that tells you this. Where if you see that 17 out of 22 children, that's a whole different ballgame and how you respond to that. So really helping teachers learn to intuit their data and respond. You can see at the bottom, it's footnoted, just strategic plan alignment. That's, of course, where sort of the origin of all our focus as we move through. All right, so 'tis the season, right? Planning is bringing the future into the present so that we can do something about it now. So since January, our instructional team has been talking about summer professional development and what's that going to look like. Department leaders say, okay, these are the things that we have to do. There's some things that are check boxes, and then there's things that we want to do to build expertise and add to the repertoire and toolbox of our teachers. So finding the balance between all of those things is really the challenge before our team. That's what we've been working through. So this is a draft of our pre-service work days schedule. And you'll see that there's some days where we have new teacher orientation. If it says teacher work day, that's they're in their buildings. Their principals and administrators may have some trainings or meetings going on, but they're in their classrooms as well. You can see we've got convocation in there. We have a day dedicated to the English language arts adoption. Those vendors are coming in and providing extensive training to our teachers that day. Skipping down here, we have a follow-up day where you've been trained. Now we're going to split our division up into grade level teams, sort of unpack metaphorically that curriculum, working with the standards and the curriculum, and begin planning for the year now that you've had some training. Teacher work days down here, and then we have a couple of days that are mixed PD days. There's certain things that we are required to do every year, whether it's part of federal funding or different things that are just best practice. We have to get it before teachers. So those days will be focused on that. Really a huge part of my topic today is that August 14th day, if I can skip backwards, a division-wide professional development day. And this is something that's been done in Page County annually, where we're all at one of the high schools, and there's sessions, some of which may be optional, some of which may be required. And the mixed PD topics are often embedded in those. This year, our goal is to really mix that up and focus it on practical toolbox and repertoire building sessions for teachers while capitalizing off the expertise in our building. So on that day, on the 14th, we want to use the educators within Page County that are thriving and exhibiting excellence. So we want to leverage our own people so we can capitalize off their expertise and scale it across their building and other buildings in the division, just promoting staff to be the best that they can be. Again, there's some specific alignments at the bottom footnoted for the strategic plan on this. So let's talk about that. The week before break, the Friday before break, we put this out to all teachers. This was an email letter. Basically, we're inviting teachers, principals, directors will present. We have a couple of outside presenters that we're aware of their expertise and we want to bring them in. If you've ever been to a professional conference where you have a schedule, you pick your session and you go to that and then you move on to the next, we're looking at designing that in-house for our staff here. So this is part of the email that went out to staff, just saying we're looking at 50 to 60 minute professional learning sessions. There's some suggested topics on the next slide, but this is what we want from your proposal. What's the title? Who's it aimed at? What are the intended learning outcomes? Again, that's best practice in education, is stating what are your intentions as far as learning. A summary, and then the number of sessions. There'll be 5 sessions throughout the day. And we've invited people, you could lead one, or if you want to do back to back to back and just repeat your session, you could do up to 4. Some of the suggested topics. Our focus as our team talked about this was really how can we be inclusive? We obviously spend a lot of time focusing on the core academics, but that leaves CTE out, that leaves your encore teachers out. So we really wanted to lead by example here to say we want everyone involved in this, something for everyone to engage in. So these are, you'll notice it says including but not limited to, just some suggestions that we came up with. We invited them to make sure that sessions are interactive and practical, that provide participants with strategies and tools that they can immediately implement. Again, building that toolbox. As we have turnover, as we're working through staffing shortages and hiring teachers who have less experience than perhaps we would have had hired 10 years ago, really let's build their toolbox, set them up for success. They can co-present if they choose. A little bit about the timeline, we'll get some more details on that. And then finally, making them aware that there is an expectation that you submit your slides, presentation resources, because we will create a shared folder across the division for reference throughout the school year. So this is linked in the email that went out. This is a Google form, and this is sort of a brief introduction. And it goes on, what's your title? What's the general topic? Of course, they can list other. Is it content area or grade level specific? So we know and can put that in our information so people know, oh, that's for 12th grade English, not 3rd grade English language arts. Things like that. How many sessions they're willing to present, learning outcomes, all the things that I asked to be included in their proposals. So our timeline. On March 26th, we shared this concept with our principals in a school leadership team meeting and said, we want you to think about where excellence is in yourself as a leader and also across your building. And we really invite you to present and lead by example, but also it means a lot for teachers to personally be invited by their school leadership team. So who are your rock stars and what are they great at? Tap them and invite them to present. The next day, an email explanation went out to all instructional staff, teachers. We asked principals to forward that out to their teachers in each building. We've set a deadline of April 22nd for proposal submissions. So April 22nd, they have had between March 27th and April 22nd to submit proposals. And our instructional team will review those and notify on May 22nd which presenters are going to be invited. Ideally, we can invite them all. But if we have 7 proposals on the same topic, we're going to have to weed through that and make decisions about what's the most appropriate to move forward with. And then August 14th is the day. We will be at Luray High School. And by August 16th, that resource library of all the slides will be put out. So that's what that looks like. Oops, sorry. One of the things that Dr. Huber came up with is he said, you know, a personal note, something I would love as people submit proposals and we invite them, I'd love to include a little personal signed note for them from the superintendent's office saying thank you for stepping up and stepping in and being willing to do this. So this is the template for that. So that's sort of where we are in the planning process for summer professional development for staff. I welcome any questions if you have them.
So I guess, is August 14th the presentations at Luray High School?
That is.
And we can go up there?
Please do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Come and participate. We'd love that.
I don't know about participating. I may watch. Good plan. I appreciate everything. I have some questions just about next year.
Sure.
So when we came back from COVID, we knew that our children were behind. There was behavioral issues, all those things that are being isolated, right? And now we're into the 4th year, I think, of full-time, I believe. And we put things in place, and maybe RTI and those type things were there before, I don't know, remediation type opportunities. Are we going to continue doing those kind of things, or are we like, is there ever a time we're just going to say, hey, we've caught up from COVID and we can go back to something different?
Wouldn't it be nice?
Yeah.
But I fear not. I think family norms, this is a Sarah Hamill opinion, I think family norms changed during COVID. I think screen time is a part of that. and the younger children are exposed. We have kids showing up to school and they can swipe, but they can't hold a pencil, right? And with that instant gratification idea of swiping and the shorter videos, we're seeing what's known as executive function deficits. So we're spending more time teaching our youngest learners how to do school before we can truly dig in on academics. And that's just the reality that particularly our elementary schools are facing. So as we've talked with our principals about master scheduling for next year, one of the things that is required to be embedded in to elementary school schedules, and for the most part, it's already there. We're just going to sort of unify the name of it, is something called WIN time. And WIN stands for what I need. So during that time, that's when we can provide our tier 3. We can not only provide remediation and intervention for students who need it, but we can also, in a perfect world, we'll also be providing enrichment for the other end of that spectrum, students who can be pushed a little more. Okay. So that's something that we'll continue to do. Our middle schools and high schools have the student assistance period, a SAT block, that's embedded into their master schedule, and they're assigned, okay, you're struggling in U.S. and Virginia history, you're going to go to a U.S. and Virginia SAP, and they're really intentional about how they're assigning those. I would love to tell you that we're going to get back to a ground zero or a baseline of like, we're doing okay, but I think that ongoing support is needed, certainly in the short term. I can't say that we're at ground zero. Kids are different than they were pre-pandemic. Families are different than they were pre-pandemic. And as our communities and families changes, we have to adapt to try to address their needs. And sometimes that feels overwhelming for all of us, but particularly teachers and building administrators.
Yeah. So the next question I have on that is, and I'll give it, for instance, Stanley Elementary. You know, the admin said, hey, we want to have smaller kindergarten classes to do those type of hold the pencil, how to behave, how to sit, you know, those kind of things. Is that something that is our best? Are we looking at best practices now and saying, hey, that worked here, maybe we should try it here, or do we just let everybody do what?
Yeah, so the science around that is that class size, right? Some people will make an argument, and depending on the day and the building and the age level, I think there's some flex. But the science around it is that unless you can get everything below 17 students, class size doesn't matter. Good teaching is good teaching. I just had a meeting today with one of our high schools looking at their course requests and what they look like. And part of our conversation was, wow, how lucky are we that we have classes, even at the high school level, of 13 and 14 students. And that's powerful. In the younger grades, even more so. K2 is so critical for that executive function development, the social emotional learning, and the foundational academic skills. So it is a constant focus, but also something that we constantly have to balance within budget and available staff, right? If we hired to keep every class at 10, we might suffer because there's not an available candidate pool that could handle even 10. True. So it is a juggling and balancing act, is what I would say to that.
I have a question. Given the fact that we're still trying to recoup from how things changed during COVID, is it a possibility that you can build in either back to school night or orientation, sort of like a family-friendly thing? These are expectations, sort of like, how does your child measure up? Are they school ready?
Yeah.
And maybe give some tips and some workshops for parents who necessarily don't have those skills or didn't think, whoa, too much screen time has a deficit when they are in kindergarten or in first grade. So they're limited by what they don't know.
Yep.
So is that built in to give the parents that education and that hands-on, especially if they are sort of seeking that?
It is. And the only perspective that I'll offer there is that's part of, Mr. Hopkins and family engagement and our kindergarten registration through grant money. We purchased all this information, even readiness workbooks
that if families choose, they can use with kindergartners as they prepare for. And a lot of that messaging, we do screenings for students as they come in. And there's a tacit or sort of unsaid message there of like, okay, this is what my child is being screened for. And a lot of parents internalize that and say, okay, I got to make sure they know their letters and their colors and their shapes and things like that. So there is a lot of it happening. What I've found is 10 years as an elementary school principal, is families that are in survival mode they don't have the capacity to attend those sort of things. So the tragedy of it is perhaps those that need it most are unable, they're not in a position where they can or will take advantage. And that's something that we're constantly talking about as a team. How can we engage them? Are there other venues? Do we take it to the neighborhoods? Do we take it to the churches? How do we do that? So that's a conversation that's always ongoing among our team.
And what safeguards are put in place for those students?
In terms of whose families are in survival mode?
Yeah.
It's the wraparound services that buildings are outstanding at in this division. Like our principals, our counselors, our community outreach efforts and I've worked in multiple divisions in the Valley, and it's impressive. Our feeding programs, our care closets, the things that we have in place. And ultimately it's getting them to school and start that explicit, like, okay, they need to learn how to sit on a carpet in their own space, or they need to learn how to tend to a non-preferred task, because we get children who have, for whatever reason, that's a difficult thing for them. If they don't want to do it, they're at 5 years old. It's not my generation where frankly nobody cared what you wanted to do. You just did it. So it's a different thing, and we just work through really. There's lots of read alouds. Ms. Heichman's on the front line of that, like making sure that our staff have resources for some of those soft skill teaching that we have to do.
And I'll just add briefly, if that's okay. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. And I just want to say this philosophically in support of obviously what we're working towards instructionally, and also just to state very publicly, I believe that nothing is more powerful than human connection. Technology can't replace that. There is nothing more powerful than kids getting outside and getting their hands dirty and playing and learning through play, and learning how to be good human beings, to me, is a graduation requirement, right? And so I think more to come on that. That sounds very broad. I did want to let you all know that you're going to continue to hear about how that impacts instructionally what we're doing moving forward. Computers can't replace teachers and can't replace that human connection that's so important, and a lot of that aids in that executive functioning work that we want to do.
You know, you were talking about like kindergarten night and trying to like guide and make suggestions, but back to what you were saying, there is so much science, and I really wish that parents of babies, you know, from 0 to 5, and that screen time and the lack of ability to self-regulate in any form. I mean, they're naturally not going to have a long attention span anyways. That's the design, that's normal. But this immediate dopamine hit is rewiring brains, and we have to understand that it is actually delaying the development of the frontal lobe, which is already at 27 years old, which then impacts the executive function. So if there's a way that we can get this information to younger families, people with, I mean, I don't care if your child's 6 months old, how do we get that information in front of those young parents so that, yes, we have got to have a balance in life. We understand that, but in not shaming anyone, there is a lot of things you don't know till you know, right? But now that we know, and also knowing that there is a rise in a lot of disabilities that we have going on now with children, and this is actually instigating and making a lot of situations worse for young children. who are unfortunately, trying to battle two things at once. And so we really need that information to hit parents sooner than until they get to kindergarten. And then you guys are trying to help
Make
them
it-
understand.
I can tell you that as a parent, and I was a building principal at the time, but I was at the pediatrician with my own children for a checkup or something. And I said to our pediatrician, who I respect, what help me as an educator, how do we tackle executive function and the deficits that we're seeing? And they said, you are 100% correct. And really, I wanted him, I would love to partner with pediatrician office staff and with information, because you do go, at least when your child is sick, you're going to the doctor typically. So that's the sort of outside of the box thinking that we need. But long story short, they said get screens out of kids' hands under the age of 5.
Yes.
And I think it is powerful. And it is something that, it's a when you know better, you do better. And how do we educate our community, and particularly families that are in survival mode?
Yes.
Who are worried about paying the bills, or worried about other things that are a big part of our community.
Yes. And maybe we could find a way to partner with some of our local physicians or anybody who's got in touch with, even Page One, anybody that is helping, we can slide a pamphlet in there. You never know, the curiosity may be to read about that. Every little bit helps.
Agreed. Anything else I can answer for you?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So we have some policy updates, Ms. Clark.
Good evening, Board. In front of you this evening, you do have your informational updates for this go-round. These are from our audit policy that we've been doing. So nothing major, just some minor wording changes and some cross-reference updates. Are there any questions for that? Yes,
I do.
sir.
Question. I know you're going through and updating all of them currently. Are we going to put in practice, because VSBA does them based on everyone gets touched, no matter if the code changes or whatever, every 5 years. Are we trying to build that into our system for our personal ones? Because I know there's some that's PCPS ones that's in there that goes along with some with HR. But are we making sure and putting those on there as well to always make sure, because they're not regulated by VSBA,
So
they're in-house.
I have a spreadsheet that we've created that labels every section of our policy code from out of Word docs. And in there is when we last revised it and last reviewed it. And so every year I'm updating the conditional format that's in there. And so it will highlight for me which one is up for review.
Okay,
Yep.
great. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Ms. Hilliard?
Good evening, board members. So I'm here this evening to give the overview of our 26-27 Special Education Annual Plan. With my presentation, you guys will also see that I've given you a copy of our grant application for your reference. So along with this presentation, well, I just said that I gave you guys that. Sorry, Linda, I was waiting for you to do it. Okay, so this presentation will be an overview of our annual plan, and it'll include the requirements for LEAs to annually submit their BDOE plan, which will outline special education services, demonstrate funding eligibility, and in compliance with state and federal laws. And as you can tell, it's due for me on May the 8th. This is a review of our funding and how it flows through from the federal level to the state and then to Page County Public Schools. This slide identifies the required plan components for our plan. So as you can tell, there are several of these components have a percentage that the state sets for me. The first one being the local jail education program, where we service students if they are incarcerated. The next one is our maintenance of effort, which is also calculated. The 611 and 619, I have a budget amount or expenditure amount that I get that I have a little leeway with of how I'll spend, and you guys will see that. For 611 and 619, 611 is school age, 619 is preschool. Our proportionate set aside, that is also calculated by our December 1 data, child count data, and it's for our homeschooled and our parentally placed private school kiddos. And lastly is the coordinated comprehensive early intervening services, which we don't have to hit on because luckily the VDOE has not notified us to tell us that we are a target division, so we're good. So this takes a look at our December 1 child count trend. And as you can see, over the past 6 years, we have been increasing. Specifically, over the last few years, we've had our greatest increases. Moving forward, looking at trend data, we'll also look at the grant application awards. So as you can see, it stayed pretty stable. We've dropped a little bit for 2025, which ironically, our child count number went up, but this funding is set by federal and state calculations, so we don't control that. We just get the set amount. So, as I talked about, the amount that we can control a little bit is the 611, which is our school age grant. We got a set amount of $780,766. With that, we use the majority of the funds towards salaries and benefits. We use a small portion for mileage reimbursement for our itinerant staff that drive all around the division, and then another small portion for materials and supplies, such as evaluation materials and such for students. And like I said, this one, 611, is school age. This is our preschool kids, where we have a much smaller amount for that. That's $18,189. And with that, we use it the exact same way. The majority of it is for salaries, and well, you can see a percentage of a salary, a child fine stipend, and benefits for those positions, as well as mileage reimbursement and a small amount for training, conferences, and workshops. So that, you guys have the meat and potatoes of my annual plan in front of you in the application. So my next steps is I've already presented this to our SEAC committee. I did that on March the 9th, which is a required component. The next is presenting to you all and hopefully get approval on April the 23rd. My next step then will be to get Dr. Huber to certify it, and I will submit it to the BDOE hopefully on or before May the 8th. Any questions?
Just give us a second.
Yes, sir.
Okay, questions?
No, I'm good. I know I'm known as the one with the questions,
All right.
but
He was
I'll
looking at something so intense.
I'll have questions after I finish looking at this.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm good.
It's okay. You can ask them the next time.
I do have a question for you. So, you're almost completing your first year in this role.
Yes.
What was your biggest learning from the year?
Joe, it's not over yet.
It's not over yet.
I know, but so far, year to date.
I don't know. I am just, as a person in general, I have a lot of grace for people. And so I think that has to continue, and I have to learn to be very flexible. I'm a little bit of a type A personality, but I've learned to be very flexible in this role and know that sometimes everything is not going to go as I intended, and we just got to learn how to move with the tide when it rolls a different way.
Okay. All right.
So,
Very good. Thank you.
all right. Thank you all.
Superintendent's update. Dr. Huber.
All right, good evening again, everyone. I have a very brief superintendent's update this evening for you. Thank you. Just to start off, as we always do, we're looking at our enrollment and ADM. And we talked about it earlier in Mrs. Miller's presentation on finance and budget. And we will continue to discuss it meeting after meeting. So I wanted to give you an update this evening in particular around our ADM for FY26. And the reason it's so important this evening is that is our March 31 ADM for the spring. So that number is at 2775. That is pretty much set and final, which puts us 55 students below what was budgeted for this fiscal year. Okay. Now, I've added a slide, and I want to take a little bit of time to talk through this with the board and certainly those in the audience and our staff. And I thought it was important to present this information because it looks at what is reported to the state of Virginia in terms of ADM and how it's calculated. I thought that as a board, that would be an interesting thing to see. So most people, when we think about ADM, we think about how many students do you have in your school division, your enrollment, and their average daily attendance and membership, and we come up with that number, and it's really quite more complicated than that. And so just for comparison purposes, I went back just to show you how this might play out. And if you look at FY25, we have our unadjusted ADM. So if you think about that, that's all of our students starting off, right? Regardless of where they're funded from, what programs they're in, are they full-time, part-time? That's the number. And then we have what's called deductions, okay? And the deductions are your CSA column and your regional program column. Those are students that are funded differently than just a flat ADM funding model from the state. And it's important to look at it, especially in terms of comparison, because the regional program students are funded. We do see reimbursement from them. So they do count towards that overall revenue, but they're counted differently. So if you look at last fiscal year in 25, you can see we had 19.19 ADM in terms of our students that are being served in our regional programs. This year, that number's jumped to 41.97 for a total delta of 22.78. So you might get extremely concerned when you look at that far right column and you see our adjusted funded ADM, which I just reported to you at 2775. But I do want to add the positive or the silver lining in that is that delta of 22.78 students in that regional program, because per semester they're funded at a higher rate back to the division than that column you see to the far right. That makes sense. So those are students that we receive a reimbursement from the state due to the needs of the child and the cost of education. So I wanted to share that because that's an interesting data point as we really dug in, and thanks to Blake and his work within Power School and Randy and Mrs. Miller and Paul and probably everybody in this room, as we worked together towards looking at that ADM, we really dug in our data and thought that this made perfect sense on how that, where are those kids? We know they're here, but we're not getting funded. Well, we are, and they're under that region.
Okay. What are some examples of the regional program?
Great. So we have students with an IEP that are served in-house with intensive needs. So the way that's defined is 85% day in special education plus a specific disability. That disability may be autism, emotional disability, deaf or blind, hearing impairment, multiple disabilities, or TBI, traumatic brain injury. And what happens is we get state reimbursement. You may have heard the term SISTA in prior presentations. Those are those students that we're talking about.
And you said they have to be both at the 85% criteria and one of the others you described, 85% in.
So they're 85% of their day is special education.
Right.
Yes.
Plus have to have one of those.
They're in those qualifying categories.
So if they're not in those qualifying, if they're not in special education for 85, of their day,
Then they wouldn't qualify.
even if they were high-functioning autistic.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I got that correct. Right. Spent a lot of time working on this.
Okay.
So yes, I'm right.
All right.
Like that. Good question. Yes. So with that being said, if you look at this time last year, this time this year to this time last year, you're looking at that adjusted funded March ADM. It's really a drop of 5 students, but you have a much larger increase in that regional program and the funding that's associated with those students. That's what this chart shows. So budget adoption update, as we'll continue to do throughout the spring up until the adoption time for you as a school board. We want to keep you updated on where we are at in our conversations with the county and our collaboration between boards along the way. So as of this evening, this is what has been advertised as our Fund 1 budget. Has been publicly advertised from the county at $48,903,261 in Fund 1. It's our operating fund. In Fund 2, which is our CIP funds, an allocation of $500,000. So that is the information we currently have from our Board of Supervisors. That number cannot go up, can go down. But we're hopeful in that those are the numbers that would come through, and certainly want to publicly continue to state that we appreciate the partnership and the collaboration between both boards. I think it's very, very strong, and the budget process throughout, while difficult decisions are being made, it's been very collaborative, and I do want to say that publicly. So what's included in that? If you can recall all the way back when we first started, with all of the requests and all of those items that were in that initial proposal at around $3.8 million to where we are now, what is still around is a way to think about this. And so if you look at that in the FY27 adopted budget, what would that include? The 2% raise in step for an average of 3%. The textbook requests that have been presented in prior meetings to you for our adoption, that Ms. Hamill shared. The health insurance increase, if you can recall, was at 11.9%. And that comes out to a 75-25 split, right, which is part of our budget, that we would only pass 25% on to the employee and that we would cover 75% of that increase. One special education assistant, a large correction to salaries, benefits, and recurring O&M expenses. This links directly back to what Mrs. Miller just discussed. And how are we fixing this and how are we making it right moving forward? That's a huge piece of this budget and part of that $48.9 million number. And then in terms of Fund 2, that $500,000 is intended to improve and provide upgrades to our welding facilities to allow for program expansion and increased opportunities for our students, not just in welding, but in potential future course offerings as well. So
You feel good about that number, 500?
I think it's a good start. We're starting to get some draft sketches and drawings in from RRMM on what that might look like, and we can certainly update you as a board as that process moves forward. I feel confident. I think we're getting very close to having a pretty impressive space for our kids, and I want to continue to work hard to try to help make that. So, great question. So that's what's covered in the Fund 1 and Fund 2 allocations for our budget. How did we get there? Well, there's a lot of work that members of the board were a part of, members of central office team, building leadership team, staff, to get to that point. And these are just some highlights of what had to happen to balance, right? We are extremely committed as a school division to adopt a balanced budget in May, balanced. And to do that, these are the steps that we're taking to get there. Just over $600,000 in teaching positions and central office reorganization. You've heard me talk about looking at attrition and needs across the division, and when opportunities arise to make decisions that allow for expenditure savings, for cost savings for us as a division. And looking at that, that's the target number across the board. We were pleased that we had a reduction in our VRS employer contribution of 2%. That was a huge addition to our budget that came in a little bit halfway to the end of our process, which saved roughly $500,000 in that Fund 1. The appropriation for retention bonus, which will be discussed here during action that Mrs. Miller will bring to you, where we have worked collaboratively, you all as a board with the Board of Supervisors, and we hope that this evening you'll be able to approve a request to allow us to provide that bonus to staff in FY26. As you may recall, that was included in FY27 to that number, which is $655,000. So Mrs. Miller is going to talk with you in a little bit about what we're looking to do there. Our scale alignment, which we've discussed prior, software renewals and cancellations, we've looked at different programs or different things throughout the division that we have been paying licenses for that we could do without, to the tune of $21,000. An increased state revenue to the tune of $1.7 million. And then increased local revenue, again, from the county at 1.1 million. And that was the advertised amount, if you remember back at the Board of Supervisors budget work session for the school division. So that's how we got to that overall. Lastly, I did provide just a paper copy of upcoming dates to the board. Hopefully that's helpful as we have the celebrations moving forward. We invite you to attend any and all, and hope that you can be there, and we will help facilitate that. There's a lot of great things happening. The spring can be busy and hectic with a lot going on, but it's a lot of good things and a lot of time for us to spend with students and staff celebrating the hard work that's gone into this year and even years prior. So you'll see some dates here. We have the upcoming art show, which is always a treat. We will provide, as we mentioned earlier, a financial update to the Board of Supervisors on April 20th. Myself and Mrs. Miller will be in attendance to do that. We have an EL celebration, upcoming school board meetings. We have our big budget adoption on May the 14th, which is an important step as we plan for the next school year, and recognition ceremonies and graduations. Both graduations are planned to be outside. Questions and comments? That concludes my update.
I'm good.
Good. No? Okay, thank you. Thank you, I appreciate it. So at this time, we have the appointment for our interim District 2 school board member. We want to thank everybody that came out and interviewed last week, or last meeting. It was all great candidates, and the person that's going to get appointed is going to be Miss Cody Henry. So congratulations on that, and I guess just getting with you and knowing when she can go over and get sworn in, and you should be at our next meeting as well. Yep. All right. Thank you. All right, Ms. Miller, claims for payment.
Yes, thank you again, school board members. You have been provided with the claim certification for April 9th, where the total operating fund expenditures are $147,632.48. Fund 5 expenditures, $31,322.44, for a total of $178,954.92. With this, you have also been provided with the list of claims and check registers. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Well, we can have a motion and to get it on the thing to vote, and we can have comments after the motions if you want to do it that way.
Make a motion for claims of payment.
Approval of payment.
Approval of claims of
Yep.
payment.
It's a motion by Ms. Bryant,
I second.
second by Mr. Thomas. Any discussion or questions?
I just have a quick question. What's the community schools grant?
What is it, did you say?
Yeah.
The community schools grant is a grant that we're going on, oh goodness, Mr. Hopkins.
He says, yep.
3 years, 4 years. And those funds have been used for things like the CARES
So
closet,
it's through title.
schools and, no, it's not a title. Yes,
Excuse me?
May I?
could we
Yes.
address
Yeah,
those?
please.
It's through the Virginia Department of Education, specifically family, the family side of that. And that grant has been, actually, Dr. Clark, the one that started that grant about 3 years ago. And it's a 2-year cycle grant. It's the final cycle.
And
Like Ms. Miller said, it's care closet, it's all of our school events, everything that we engage our families with. It's allowed us to do some amazing things. Travel, fly, Virginia Assembly.
That was my next question.
Yeah,
Are we going to apply for that again?
Yep.
It's pretty critical for us to continue to do this.
That's all I got? Okay, so I'm ready for a vote.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Bryant? Yes.
Yes. All right, Ms. Miller, formal request to the BOS.
Yes, thank you. I have before you a resolution number 2026-09. This is to the Page County Board of Supervisors requesting an appropriation for employee retention bonuses and authorization to transfer funds to the Food Service Fund, Fund 5, for those bonuses. And I would like to read this into record. Whereas the General Assembly approved funding for a one-time bonus of $1,500 for standards of quality funded instructional and support positions, which may be utilized as an employee retention bonus, and whereas the total funding required to distribute the bonus is projected to be $897,750, and whereas Page County Public Schools is projected to receive state funding in the amount of $311,135 for fiscal year 2026 for this purpose. And whereas the required local match is estimated to be $586,615. And whereas the appropriation of these funds is necessary to implement the distribution of employee retention bonuses. And whereas Page County Public Schools respectfully requests an appropriation totaling $897,750 to the operating fund to fully fund the employee retention bonuses. And whereas a portion of these funds, estimated at $51,762, is attributable to food service employees and must be transferred to Fund 5 Food Service to ensure proper accounting and disbursement. Now therefore be it resolved that Page County School Board respectfully requests that the Page County Board of Supervisors approve the following adjustments to the Page County Public School budget for fiscal year 2025-26. Number 1, appropriate the $311,135 of state bonus funds with no increase to local appropriations. Number 2, appropriate $586,615 of local funds to cover the local match for the retention bonus, which would increase local appropriations. And 3, authorize the transfer of $51,762 from the operating fund to Fund 5 Food Service to support the distribution of bonuses to eligible food service employees. If I may speak to the timing of this,
Yes.
we're doing this now so that we can get approval from you all on this, get this to the Board of Supervisors, who will then vote on this next month, because we are planning to receive the money from the state in June, and if we wait till then, can't get that all through. So wouldn't be making any adjustments until, of course, it's approved by the Board of Supervisors, and then we would make the budget adjustments. And these amounts are what we believe to be worst case scenario, the highest amount that it could be. It would go down from there depending on the number of employees who sign their contracts for 26, 27.
And I would add, this is a retention bonus. So the way in which we will communicate this is contracts for the next school year must be signed and returned by the specific date in order to receive the bonus. So it's for those who are returning to us.
Okay. Good. we'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the formal request to the Board of Supervisors.
Second.
I got a motion from Mr. Bryan and a second by Mr. Reed.
Mr. Reed.
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Bryant.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
DSB policy updates, Ms. Clark.
Good evening, Board. I come before you this evening to bring back up policies that were presented at the last board meeting. That included all the VSB updates that had come through from some legal changes, and then seeking action on those items. Are there any questions?
No. Not from me.
Then I'll make a motion to approve the VSBA policy update.
I'll second.
All right, got a motion by Ms. Bryan and a second by Mr. Thomas.
Mr. Reed.
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Ms. Bryant.
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. So we'll have our board members' comments. Start with Ms. Bellows down there at the end.
Okay, I feel so isolated over here,
I know, you should move up one.
which is okay because I had sushi before this. I don't know what to say. It was a lot of numbers, so I have no say in that. You guys keep doing what you're doing.
All right.
Doing a good job at it, I suppose.
All right. Thank you. Take it. We lost your boyfriend, though. That's the problem.
I think he had to go to the bathroom.
Oh, he did? Poor guy. Mr. Thomas?
I just encourage our community members, not only to come to these meetings. I've been encouraged to see some public comments here at these last few meetings, but also to follow the things that are going on with the school division on social media. It is awesome to see what goes on in these schools on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. There's some awesome things that are going on in there, and a lot of times, I'll open up and see something at Shendo Elementary and say, "Oh, that's incredible," or see something at Luray and say, "Oh, wow, it's really cool." So the division is doing a lot of awesome things, and just shout out to everybody involved in that, and shout out to just an awesome presence out there from a social media standpoint for us to be able to see those.
I just want to say thank you to the administrative staff, because my past experience of being in administration, it's gearing up right now for, public perception is, okay, school's almost over, so everybody's going to be ready for a break in May, June, July. That doesn't happen for administrators in schools. It gears up. It really starts ramping up because you're closing one year, starting a new one. Ms. Hamill was speaking about what she's doing for the summer, and welcoming new teachers and new staff back, and full staff, actually. Dr. Johnson, you definitely know this. You're hiring for next school year, as dealing with also some of the getting teachers evaluations back in from the schools. So, the perception is school's dying down. What do they got to do? There's a lot. And I commend you on carrying one school year and starting up another one and juggling both. I know that's hard. So I certainly appreciate that, because I know how hard you are. And to Ms. Clark, you have a thankless job in policy. I know it. I did it. It's hard to keep all of that balanced, and with things always changing. So I appreciate that very much. And it's finally happening, since I've asked in 21 to get the policy manual fixed. So I appreciate your work on that. Thank you.
You guys are working hard, doing a great job, and we appreciate that. And I know the budget has been a lot of pressure for everyone, and you guys are really making that come together. And I think that it's we need to acknowledge our administrators in the building and the educators on the front line, because they too have had to shift and take some changes, because we have had to do some cutbacks. So it's a big thank you to everyone. This is a huge team effort, and I know that going into next year, that is not our plans of how we want things to move along, and that is exactly what we want to avoid for them. So thank you all.
Well, it was good to have Mr. Smith come and talk to us. And I think you heard the passion for him. And we had what I considered a very, almost a best-in-class FFA at Page County High School. And because our guys left us, and I understand why they did. I talked to both of them. And then last meeting, I heard that we couldn't get some of our students to have opportunities that would have been affordable previous ones, and that hurt. And I really hope that we'll be able to fix that this year in some way. I appreciate Mr. Clem coming as well to support that. It's very important to do. I think with the welding, I like your idea. We were going to go with a improvement to the current that would be money spent, and we wouldn't get a better, we would get a better product out, but it wouldn't be expanded and with a better product and with a better facility than what we're proposing. And I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get this done. And if we do get it done, it's because of the work we've done with the Board of Supervisors and understanding and making visits available, and you guys doing that. I know they have a lot of trust with what's going on right now that hasn't been there in years past. So continue, don't lose that momentum, whatever we do. And I appreciate Ms. Henry coming on board. We'll finally have a full board that we haven't had in a long, long time. It's December. So that's going to be exciting to see. And you don't know what you stepped into, but you'll find out soon enough. Well, good. I'm glad to hear that you're excited, and we hope you continue to be excited about that. Thank all the staff and everyone that put the meeting together, and let's just keep moving forward. Yes. So entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All right. Motion to adjourn by Ms. Bryan and second by Mr. Bree.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Ms. Bryant? Yes. Mr. Payne?
Yes.
You are adjourned.
Thank you.